Hey everybody, Danny here with another author video. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I basically just wanted to update you all on The Young Revolution, book number 1 of my action fantasy series, The Cycle of Eden. So, another author interview came out with my own publishing group, Atmosphere Press, so I basically just wanted to talk about that, more reviews and critiques that came out with The Young Revolution, just other updates in general, and maybe even going over the brand new website they made for me before book number 2 comes out, which is very soon. Anyways, before any of that, let's get started with the author interview over here by Atmosphere Press themselves, my publishing group, who I would recommend to any new or veteran writers. They're a fantastic team. Anyways, so I love the title of this interview, just from the start, From Pixels to Prose, an interview with Daniel Varona. That's me! And of course, the author bio here mentions that video games were a heavy inspiration to my writing, so very clever title, if you ask me. But let's get right into it. Much like my previous author video, I'm probably going to just add a little bit more insight behind some of the answers I gave. Let's get started with question number 1, and they asked me, tell us the story of your book's title. Was it easy to find or did it take forever? And I answered, for the longest time, the title of my series was simply Eden, which is the name of the world in which my novel takes place. A lot is going on with the characters' backstories, the chaotic political ecosystem, and the rules that bind them. But the core aspect that brings all these unique elements together is that they all exist and make Eden what it is. As I finished the series, the main point of interest to me became the cycle that has inevitably taken place throughout Eden's existence. So, the most important part to understand not only for the reader, but also the lesson the heroes learn throughout their journey, is from the cycle of Eden itself. History is a major component of the series, and our own Earth. Learning and growing as a whole through our past actions is important, so understanding the cycle of Eden allowed me to convey this message. Also, adding the cycle of to the title helped make the series stand out compared to other media titles if I had just simply chosen Eden. In terms of The Young Revolution, the title of book number 1, that was rather easy to come up with. The Young Revolution is the main hero Seth accepting his denied destiny and managing to meet like-minded people to save a world deemed lost, corrupted by an immoral regime. The title from each part references the focal point of that particular book, the subject that sticks with the reader from beginning to end. There's not much else to add to this. I basically answer everything from a logical standpoint and from the story aspect itself and what was important to me to convey the message I wanted to convey. There's a lot of messages in this series, but history and the cycle that surrounds this world is probably the most important aspect, like I already answered. On to question number 2. They asked me, how did it feel when you first saw your book cover? Or when you first held your book in your hands? And I answered, Atmosphere's stellar art team literally brought my vision to life. After I told them of the idea I had, they did such a fantastic job that seeing the completed book cover of The Young Revolution made me feel like this series could become something even bigger. That it could enter other forms of creative media, which was always a dream of mine, such as becoming an anime or a video game. After years of hard work and dedication, I truly did feel accomplished holding the book for the first time. It felt amazing to physically see and feel the number of years I put into this. It made it feel worth it. Now, you probably won't believe me when I say this, but I did not expect for this to be such a thick boy. I didn't expect for it to be this big. It's a thick boy! I didn't know! I was just writing, alright? I was just writing. And then all of a sudden, because on the, I was just writing what the program I was writing on, it said it was like 300 pages. And I was like, okay, 300 pages? That's like, that's like Harry Potter, alright? And then all of a sudden, I get it in text, and the way it translated the text, it became this. And I'm like, Jesus! What? But hey, it's a fast read. It's very fast paced. I promise. It is. It's very fast paced. But in terms of the book cover itself, I love it. I think it's absolutely perfect. You know, this was my idea. I'm going to put the image up here. They absolutely captured my idea. This was my plan from the get-go, because this scene that is portrayed here, after you read it, you kind of know what this scene is. But to me, and to the series as a whole, this was very important to have this as the book cover for the first book, because this is the most pivotal moment in the entire series. If this moment does not happen, everything changes, and basically this entire series does not happen. This standoff with Seth and Cain, his brother, on this airship as they are escaping, right? That's what this scene portrays. And it is the most pivotal moment, the most momentous moment in the entire series that affects the series to the very end. But for just some fun facts, just looking at it, you know, that's the scene. You can find it, and it's the way it's described in the book is exactly what you see here. Besides, you know, minor differences, but you're not going to get exactly everything. But I love the colors, the purple with the gold. The thing with Seth in the front cover, you have the shining shot, as it's called, going straight for Cain. There are some differences that they didn't capture, and that's fine. That's just kind of part of the industry. You're not going to get the exact thing you want from a book cover, because everyone sees and reads things differently. I gave them the passage and described what I wanted. But like Seth, for example, they're not going to capture exactly how I see Seth or how you see Seth after I described him in the book, right? And I'm very descriptive with my character designs, but this isn't how, personally, this is not what I see Seth wearing, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It fits the general scheme and color tone of this book cover, and I love it. I actually told them before, I told them to push him back more. He was more in the front cover, like more towards the front, and you could see him more. I told him to kind of cover his face up more with the rifle and stuff, because it's up to reader interpretation how they view Seth, how they view these characters, right? That's why a lot of book titles and stuff, they don't show exactly what their main characters look like. A lot of the times, the book cover is just you see their back looking at something, right? That's the typical book cover. But that's on purpose, because they don't want you to have a set image of that character in your head. They want you to just have your own interpretation. So you can still get that with this. But I don't mind how Seth looks here. He's a younger version of himself in this scene anyways. And he does look younger, so I like it. I love his rifle. I love that the set stage is perfect. They're on the airship. You got the moon in the background, which is very prevalent throughout the series. You have Cain, which I think they did a fantastic job with Cain and the details on his skin and such. Now, I find it interesting because in this moment, he's technically supposed to be holding another character, which you could say he was, and he's backing up after seeing what Seth is doing. Fits the scene still. I do find it funny that he's holding like a spear or something. It's like a shadow spear, whatever. It's cool. I like it. I love it. I hope you guys like it too. Another aspect that was very important to me that I personally asked for from their team, from Atmosphere's art direction team, was to have it so that it spans the entire cover. From the spine, from the front to the spine to the back. And you can trace this bullet where it's going towards Cain. And that was very important to me, and they captured that absolutely terrifically. For the third question, they asked me, what was the most rewarding / meaningful part of publishing your book? And I answered, the most rewarding part of publishing my first novel was the amount of support I received from my family and friends. For so many years, I've kept my writing close to my chest. It was only recently when I announced the publication of The Young Revolution that most in my circle found out, and it was a huge relief to finally make it public. The most meaningful part has been any words expressed by my friends or family that previously had no idea I was a writer. Feedback from my mother especially warms my soul because I've dedicated this series to her as a thank you for all she's done for me. Any moment she resonates with Eve, the moon who shows love to Eden no matter how dark it gets, is all I ever wanted. And funny enough, my mom, I know my mom very well, so I knew in certain action sequences she was just going to skim through them, because especially in part 1, I can get pretty descriptive with how gruesome some of these villains are. Or she gets kind of anxious because you never know what's going to happen, right? It's an action fantasy, so things are moving at such a fast pace. But I always knew that was going to be a thing, but the overall, you know, like the world itself, the characters especially, the personal symbolism found in the world that she can resonate with, and the overall message I'm trying to convey, she resonates with that very well, and she enjoys it quite a bit. So I'm very happy with that. I'm always happy to hear words from her, and she's probably watching right now, so love ya. And another thing that a critic, a reviewer said that kind of explains the overall style of this series, my style, is that it's from Kirkus Review, which we'll talk about later, but they said despite all the evils, the story often feels lighthearted. And that's very true, and that's just a positive message to even view on life as a whole, that even as dark and gloomy as life can get sometimes, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's always important to keep on smiling, because that just reinforces like strength and confidence in you, right? And these characters have to do that a lot, because at random moments there's going to be this world destroying monster over here, but then you have Seth and Chase over here doing something very silly, like Chase peeing on a tree, and Seth's like, what are you doing? We gotta go. Just silly stuff like that, and the humor aspect is very important. So overall, it's like not everything has to be taken so seriously. Even in the darkest of times, you can still have some fun. You can still smile at the end of the day. And if you kind of like that, if that resonates with you, then this series is for you, because that's my style throughout the entirety of the Cycle of Eden. And that's one thing I'm happy that this entire series is done, and I can push these out relatively quickly. And I'm very excited to see what you all think of the ending, especially my mom, because I think the ending itself will resonate with her quite fondly. So I'm very excited for that moment. The fourth question here was quite fun. They asked, if your book had a soundtrack, what are some songs that would be on it? And I answered, I actually used music as a tool to bring out many different kinds of emotions throughout my series. Using music as a strategy to get yourself in a certain headspace is a tip I'd give any writer stuck on a particular scene. There have been many times I've used specific tracks to push ideas further to help my readers feel scenes more accurately by putting myself in that zone emotionally/mentally. And I've spoken about that aspect quite a bit in previous interviews, so you can check those out if you're curious. I also answered, most of the time I used a variety of video game soundtracks for ambiance and mood, but there were also characters originally molded/inspired by songs. I related Seth to And the Hero Will Drown by Story of the Year, and I related Duo to Kill the Sound by Cell Dweller. Both are rock songs that fit well with the action scenes in the series. And now whenever I listen to those songs, I always relate them to my characters, and I'm just singing along in my car to them. They're great. If you read this entire series and then listen to these songs, you'll get the gist of it as well. You'll see where a lot of inspiration came from, which is fun. Alright, question number 5. I really like this question actually. They asked, what is one thing you hope readers take away from reading your book? How do you envision your perfect reader? And I answered, there are many positive messages that relate to our own world that I hope my readers take away from the Cycle of Eden. In many ways, Eden is obviously a representation of our own Earth and the moral dilemmas we as humans put it through. A major lesson in the Young Revolution is the best way to find kindness is by sharing your own. No matter how dark and lonely the world feels, kindness will always be what unifies us, for we all seek and deserve it. In general, the major message I discuss as the series goes on is the importance of history. As long as we learn from our past mistakes, the hope for changing for the betterment of the world will always exist. Right? And then I said, for the perfect reader part, there are a lot of vague hints I drop at the start of the series, especially in book 1 and 2. That readers aren't supposed to understand until they finish the series or read through it again. I love the moments in storytelling where I go back and notice / recognize an aspect I didn't or couldn't realize before. Those moments of, oh, that's why this was written, or oh, the author was referencing this the entire time, are both rewarding for the readers and the author. Figuring out the deep lore or mysteries is part of the fun, and my perfect reader would be someone that manages to put all the puzzle pieces of Eden and its characters together. There's a lot of callbacks, especially as you go forward in the series. I make a lot of callbacks to part 1, part 2, that you're like, oh man, I remember that. And this is an aspect that I learned a lot from video game storytelling. The aspect of, like I said, I love the moments where I go back and notice something I didn't before. Or when you go back and play a game again and you realize, oh, that's why they did this. I love stuff like that. You're basically visibly seeing the growth with these characters, especially in the series. I'll have Seth do something in part 3 and it's relating to something that happened in part 1 and you're like, oh man, that's just like that, that's why. And I don't necessarily say it like outright, but it's like you can see between the lines that this is happening again or something like that, for an example, right? I love that stuff because it's like, oh man, my brain connected these dots. And that the most fun part about writing is connecting those dots, connecting this character to this event, or this character to this character to this location, and it just increases this web of world building, right? So the next 2 questions are from a different interview entirely, done by Literary Titan, and these 2 questions, they kind of just, I like the way they turned out, so I might as well just add them to this video as well, right? So the first question Literary Titan asked me was, the Cycle of Eden, the Young Revolution, follows a young hero in the land of darkness who is destined to restore light to his world. What was the inspiration for the setup of your story? And my answer kind of gives more context behind the series in general. So I answered, the concept of light versus dark typically revolves around good versus evil. The Young Revolution sets this up to be the usual case, but there are aspects involved in the first chapters involving Seth's mother and later on in the series that will make my readers question that norm. And they really liked that answer right there because they kind of titled the interview, Make My Readers Question That Norm. Maybe there is a place, a reason for darkness in the world. Maybe the light is too good to be true. Lady Eve, Seth's mother, representing the moon with a dark side, has a lot of meaning readers will catch on to as the series progresses. This part of the setup was what I had planned for a while. The vagueness behind the essences of light and darkness match with the fact that Seth is still a growing hero who has much to learn. The readers will learn more about Eden at the same pace as Seth and his companions do, which leads to many twists and turns in the plot. And that's just my style of writing as well. So that just gives more context behind the series. Alright, and the last question is, where does the story go in the next book, and where do you see it going in the future? And I answered, a fun fact is that the entire Cycle of Eden series is already written and completed, so its future is quite clear to me. The fast-paced action will always be a huge staple in the Cycle of Eden series. However, book number 2 gives a special focus on internal conflict, whereas the Young Revolution was heavy on external conflict. There will be a lot more emotional turmoil and desperation in Seth's destiny. In the Young Revolution, we saw that the Neo-God is physically and spiritually powerful in the ways of using darkness. In book number 2, we will see a whole other side to his deviousness. The mental torture he can inflict on the heroes. I can ensure that those who enjoyed the Young Revolution, book number 1, will love this next book, because we will be entering a sequel where trust is put on a wobbly pedestal ready to fall at any moment. And I am very excited for it to be published. Okay, so those were the questions from the interviews. I hope you enjoyed the more behind the scenes look, or what's going on in my mind in terms of the Young Revolution or the series as a whole. And before we move on though, before I forget, if you could do me a favor and just click the Atmosphere Press interview link down below in the description. Just click it, you don't have to do anything else. Just click it and then you can exit out immediately. It just makes me look good. I appreciate it. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you in this video is the brand new website that Atmosphere Press's team made for me for the Cycle of Eden series. Look at this. It looks gorgeous. It has all the colors that the Cycle of Eden book cover already has, the black and the gold, and I love the background aspect in this space setting where it's like it has the darkness, it has the stars, which were very prevalent in the story overall. But if you look down here, you can see the better picture of it, where I like to see this as like this is the Reclaimers holding this side of the light during the Dark Years, and this is the Army of Darkness trying to take it over during that time. So I love the background. This is also on this website where you can purchase signed copies at the most convenient way possible. Any copy of the book purchased here in the shop that's up here, I will sign and send it your way personally. So if that is something you're interested in, you can get it from here instead of these other places. And yeah, that's one of the main things for the website. But also, you can check out the books personally. This background is awesome just for the Young Revolution. If you've read the story or gotten through a decent chunk of it, this red menacing atmosphere is very fitting for the villains in the part 1, in book number 1. So I do love how that turned out as well. And you get to just read about the book, get a purchase, and you can also just get a sneak peek of it with this cool thing, which is really sick. You can just actually get you get the entire prologue basically of the book. And but also, more importantly, you get to see the most recent reviews that I've gotten from professional critics and reviewers. And the Young Revolution won an award, by the way. It got Literary Titan gave it a Gold Book Award in May 2023. It gave it 5 stars as well. And I've spoken about this review already, but the Golden Book Award I did not. So that was pretty cool to see. Pretty cool. You can click on it and see where it takes you to the actual website on their end. Here we have like smaller reviews that I've gotten from other people. Here we have here this talks about like the best way to find kindness is by sharing your own. Audrey Davis from Independent Book Review Team. And here, this is Kirkus Reviews. Kirkus is a massive name in the writing sphere, and it's probably one of the main reasons this review was a very good review. You can click here, and it'll take you to the website on Kirkus. Probably one of the main reasons I was able to get my book in my childhood library, the library that I went to my entire childhood, basically, Hyattsville Public Library in PG County. My book is there. You can actually go there and rent it out, and that was very surreal to see my book there in that library. So they say something very nice. The author delivers an epic series opener reminiscent of the video games that served as his inspiration. Seth drinks a rejuvenating elixir, embarks on a side quest, and goes head to head with boss level baddies. A very fun review. And then this review down here was the first legit review I got, so it has like a soft place in my heart, from Diane Donovan. Shoutouts to you. From Midwest Book Review, and it was a very long review, and it was very nice, and it meant a lot to me because this was my first review for my first book. Let's just pick a line here. Varona is skilled at capturing the "you are here" feel of the atmosphere, which is sick. Where's that line I really like? Oh, the pace and the action are fast, the characters are many, and the intricacies of Eden's political, social, and psychological influences are intriguing. Readers can expect a fantasy that works on both a entertaining and leisure world-building manner, and one which injects a degree of complexity into the changing scenarios of Eden and those who struggle through its cycles of promise and failure. They talk about the dialogue. They were the first person to say that it was a space opera as well. I've only heard that for Star Wars. That's massive. That is massive. And there we go. This is the website. This is the official Cycle of Eden website, cycleofeden.com. That's all it is. You don't even need the www. It's just cycleofeden, all one word, .com. And you can go here and just check out every now and then if there's updates on the books. When the other books get added, they'll have their own separate images in the background, just like part 1 does. They'll be added to the shop. which will also always be signed copies and all that. Maybe I'll add other merchandise as time goes on related to the series. We'll see. We'll see. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot, and you can check it out yourself if you're interested. But for now, I think that is where this video is going to end. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give you guys an update on the Young Revolution, especially because part 2 is soon to come out. In the coming months, part 2 will be coming out, and I'm very excited for you guys to get your hands on that as well. So until next time, thanks for watching as always. See ya.